Okay everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video on Gran Turismo 7. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to get the most out of the Citroen in time trial. You can also use these tips to help you in many other cars, including the NSX, the Alfa 4C and stuff like that for your braking zones and your racing lines. Then we're going to go into a daily race C from the back of the grid and try and give you some advice with this race to help your DR this week. If you do enjoy this video, get subscribed to the Key 25 on YouTube, hit that like button, let me know in the comment section what you think about this week's races. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this week's daily races for the current week. Okay, so we're going to start with the track guide for this week's daily race C at Watkins Glenshaw. I'm driving in the Citroen, we're on racing hard tyres and we're going into turn 1. Now for turn 1, we are going to be looking for that 200 board there in the distance. We are going to be braking dead level with that 200 board. So once we're alongside, onto the brakes, and now we're going to start that trail braking because you want to get this car rotating in to the curb on the right. And then once you're past that 100 board, you can see we're going to start chucking this car in, rotating it in with the trail braking. And as soon as we've got it pretty much onto the curb, we're onto that throttle. Now the aim here is to stay on the throttle without lifting off. If you lift off, you lose a lot of time. Just be careful on the exit. Right tyre needs to stay on the curb. If it goes over the curb, you can get a track limit penalty. Now important all the way up through the sector is to skim the curbs as you're working your way up. So on the left hand side, skim the curb, on the right hand side, skim your curb. Now that might sound silly, but it will actually gain you half a tenth all the way through that little bit of stretch of road. So into the bus stop chicane, we are going to be looking for the 300 and the 200, but we're going to brake slightly past the 300. So past the 300 now, and you can see here we're actually turning in on the 300 board, but we're not braking yet. We're actually going to brake just before the 200 board there, about halfway in between the 300 and the 200 board, onto the brakes. Now your right hand tyre needs to get as close as you dare to the barrier on the right hand side because this gives you a better angle through the bus stop. So again, you can get your right hand tyre over the yellow line here if you get it done right. If you go too early over the yellow line, you can pick up a track limit penalty, but if you do it like we did there, you should be okay. Now you're aiming for that circle where the curb is. Your right hand tyre can go over the grass, but your left hand tyre can't go over the curb all the way onto the grass because you'll get a penalty. Now I run a little bit wide here. You can see I took a little bit of a line that is not the quickest, but we did manage to get it back up to the curb. Ideally you want to try and hug the curb a little bit more all the way through that corner. Now you can see little dabs of brakes as we went through that corner to try and get the weight onto the front of the car. That helps with the rotation. And then again, be careful on the exit curb there. You can pick up a track limit, so be cautious on your tyres going over there. Now into the final sector here, we're looking for the 200 board on our right hand side. Now we are going to brake just before that 200 board now and then start trail braking it in to carry the speed. Now you see I'm in 5th gear. I go down to 4th gear and try and get really aggressive on the throttle, but realize got a little bit too aggressive, so I had to upshift to 5th. So lost a little bit of time there, but just be careful you don't go all the way over the curb on the right and pick up a penalty. Now we're going to use that board on the left there. I think it's an advertisement board as our braking reference. I always use that for this corner. I find it a little bit easier to use that braking just before it's out of our visual reference. And then again, right hand tyre right up to the curb, and again aggressively on the throttle. You do not want to lift off the throttle. Once you go on that throttle, it needs to stay on the throttle, so don't go too early. Make sure that you're on the throttle late enough that you can keep the power down, but not too late that you're not going to carry any speed over the line. So hopefully that'll help you out for a basic track guide for that track. We got a 14.9. I'm sure we can get that another two tenths quicker if we push it a bit more. Now for the race, we're running on tyre wear ×3. Now fuel is of zero relevance for this combo, so do not worry about your fuel. Tyre wear also though is pretty irrelevant in a way. It is going to be a factor depending on what car you pick. So it's 15 laps, racing hard tyres. Now the Citroen is what I'm driving here because in my personal opinion, the Citroen is the nicer car to drive, although the NSX is also a nice car to drive. However, the Citroen will have a little bit of an advantage towards the last third of the race. Do bear that in mind. On the last 5 laps, it's going to have a slight advantage on tyre wear. If you want to go with the best car on tyre wear, the Alfa 4C is going to be your weapon of choice for this combination. However, do bear in mind that the Alfa is not the nicest car to drive. It's a bit tricky. Curbs, it can be a bit awful on sometimes on the curbs. So just remember that you know, the Citroen's a really pleasant car to drive. Same as the NSX, really nice car to drive. Other cars that you might consider, we tried the Ferrari and the Cayman, both very good cars. However, I seen with the telemetry that you can see on the screen at the moment, our front left tyre with them cars was going over 100 and it was absolutely killing that front left. Now if you watch through this race, you'll see that with the Citroen it doesn't go over 92 to 93. It manages to keep them temperatures in a better range which gives you more pace towards the end of the race because your tyres are in better condition. Now, strategy-wise, you can pit lap 1. I actually forgot to pit lap 1 there. I was going to do it, but I think I missed it and thought, well, we have to go on the next lap. So, yes, you can pit lap 1 if you're quite far back in the field, but I would be very cautious on seeing who pits and making a decision based on, you know, drivers that you are aware of, what type of drive. You know, if someone who you're not very confident around pits in front of you, maybe avoid that and go a little bit longer. Or this race is going to be about working with people. So if you have someone who you know you can work with in a race, this is the kind of combination that you really need to work together. Bump drafting will be very good here. It'll be very strong for gaining your pace without fighting. If you fight on this track, you're just going to lose lap time. So if you can have a partner to team up with and bump draft here, you will gain a lot of time, and you might actually catch people out that have pitted a lot later if you pit early, and you can do that with someone. So factor that into your strategy. As we're going to see, penalties are going to be quite common here as we've gained the position there from someone taking a penalty. Now, I decided I was going to pit this lap, but this is going to give you an example of what not to do, is brake too late like I do here. So I brake too late, but this is what you need to do. If you realise you've made that mistake, don't try and make it into the pits. If your left-hand tyre goes over that yellow line, completely bail the pit lane, tuck in behind whatever car was near you. Don't make sure you don't squeeze them into the wall, obviously, but do that, otherwise you're going to get a 3-second penalty. Now, I decided to go for a move here and try and be quite aggressive. You're going to have to be aggressive on this track to get overtakes done, because there is no heavy braking zone. Without heavy braking zones, it makes it very difficult to get overtakes done, and hence why they've put this compulsory pit stop in for this race. I would have liked maybe 2 different tyres and a little bit more tyre wear to make it a little bit more interesting, but you are going to have to do some quite aggressive overtakes, because the only overtaking opportunities you're going to have are before 3rd and 4th gear corners, which makes it very, very tricky. So we're going to pit this lap here on lap 3. You can see, I can see in front of me there's quite a lot of cars. There's a car with a penalty. It makes sense to get in the pits now and give myself some clean air. So this was one of the early races that we did. Our pace is nothing special at this stage. We're just trying to get used to the combo. But in terms of strategy, it's quite relevant, you know, giving yourself the free space. So you can see, coming out of the pits, we actually pick up a bit of a slipstream from some of the people that pitted early, a little bit further up the field. But you can see as they accelerate up, they've got the advantage of not coming directly out the pits. They actually break away from the slip. But by lap 6, we've caught up to that group, and we've actually overtaken a car there who's just took a penalty. So yeah, again, penalties really important again to try and avoid the penalties on this combination, because they will set you back in the race. Now we're going to go for an aggressive move up the inside, right up to the curb, make the move nicely there, and up into P11. But remember, we're technically probably a little bit ahead of this, because there's people that haven't pitted yet in this race. So you don't fully understand where you are in this combination until towards the end, and then you'll start understanding. Just to give you a reference for your pit lane loss, it is around 20 seconds. So if you see that the leader is 21 seconds in front of you and they pit, they're going to come out very close to you, probably just in front, but then you're going to gain as you work your way up this hill, because you'll be having the extra speed. So try and remember that with your pit lane in and what lap to pit. You know, the loss is 20 seconds, so you know it's relevant for the strategy to see when you might want to pit as well. So again, we're working our way through here, get very close to the car in front through there. You can see gaining quite a bit through the bus stop, losing a little bit of time during this phase of the race. Maybe pitting early wasn't the best choice, but I think you're going to get caught in traffic whatever way you do it, because it's such a short track. There's no real heavy braking zones. It's quite an easy track for the average player to learn, because it's just basically 3rd, 4th gear corners and carrying speed. There is no real technical slow zones that, you know, throttle control and stuff like that. It's a lot of accelerating aggressively out of corner. So again, into the final corner, just trying to hold a tight line there. Again, this corner is going to be really important for getting your overtakes done, because one thing you want to do is give yourself a little bit of a gap so that you can get that better exit, and then you can go for the move into probably the heaviest braking zone on the track, this one here. You're actually going down to 3rd gear, and that's going to be one of your heaviest braking zones and one of your best opportunities at getting an overtake done. And then you'll have the main straight going into the bus stop. Obviously, if you're in a slipstream, you can really get a massive slipstream with this custom slipstream. But now we are on lap 11, and you can see we're in P10. We've got another car with a penalty, again showing you the importance of avoiding the penalties on this combination. I actually picked up a penalty on lap 10 there, you can see there with the 16.7, so lost a little bit of time on this lap, but we're still actually catching up this group in front of us. And you can see what's happening when you've got a group of cars that are not working together. You just catch them up so quick. So if you do have that driver that you trust and, you know, they start working with you, use that to your advantage, because it will pay dividends towards the end of the race. You will gain so much time if you're not fighting. Again, you can see another car with a penalty up there. And now this is coming into the phase of the race where the Citroen is really strong. The NSX, a great car for this combination. The Alpha is going to be great. The Megane Trophy, I found, in a slipstream is good. However, if you lose the slipstream, you're going to be really slow over a lap time compared to, for example, the NSX, the Citroen, and the Alpha and stuff like that. So maybe not really slow, but you will suffer a little bit on the straight. The Alpha has a little bit more cornering speed to make up for its loss of speed on the straights. As you can see, getting very close to these cars in front now. And again, this is all losing us time. But if you look on the leaderboard to P1, we're still only about 20.3 behind him. Now, there's obviously cars in front of us that have already pitted, so we're not in the lead of this race, but we know that the cars at the front that haven't pitted yet aren't going to be massively ahead of us when they do go into the pits. But what you can see at this phase is just how much better the Citroen is towards the end of the race. I have so much more ability to push through these corners. I'm actually getting quite badly held up at this phase. So this is why I recommend the Citroen for the race, because I think it's actually the nicer car to drive, but it will give you an advantage in the last third of the race where you can get some overtakes done. So you see again, going for that move up the inside, putting ourselves up into P8, and now we're behind Barney in front of us. Again, Citroen in the slipstream has the ability to overtake as well. It's got quite good grunt in the slipstream, so it will give you that ability to go for them moves into them high speed corners, and you can absolutely send it in the Citroen because it's got such good tyre wear. You can see here our front left is still below 90. Now at this phase of the race with the Cayman, it was over 100. It was full red on that telemetry. Same with the Ferrari, it was really struggling, although I say the Ferrari was slightly better feeling in how it drove compared to the Cayman, but the Cayman really did start understeering on the last 2 to 3 laps. So if you do choose that car, just be very cautious in some of these high speed right hand corners. The left tyre gets very, very hot and really does overheat massively, and will give you a lot of understeer. But again, in this race here, you can see now we've got some people going for a pit stop on lap 13. The next group are going to have to pit on the following lap. So you can see that the leader has actually got that gap up to 21.2 seconds. So we need to get a good lap here. So I'm actually going to go and have a look and see if I can go for a move on Barney. So we're going to get a little bit of slipstream and then have a little look up the inside. Brake as late as we can. So we're going to again brake on that 200 board. Use third gear, rotate it in, and now we're going to get in the Megane slipstream. Now this isn't a prime example of just what I was talking about with the Megane, how slow it is on the straights. So you can see he's got a little bit of slipstream to the car up in front, but even with that little bit of slipstream, just look how weak it is when it hasn't got that massive toe off another car, and the Citroen just completely breezes past that Megane Trophy. So yeah, bear that in mind. If you're going to go that car, you will probably want someone to work with and use their slipstream. It is very good on tyres at the end, very similar to the Citroen. It doesn't overheat the tyres as much, so it is good on tyres, but it's lacking that straight line speed. So again, we're back up behind another NSX, which we've caught up quite quickly through this long right hand corner, and now you can see that gap is back under 21 seconds to the lead driver who hasn't pitted. Now this is a lead driver in front of us who has pitted, so this is going to be very, very close as we go through these corners. So we don't really want to fight here. We're just going to keep the car on a normal line. However, we're going to try and get a good exit off this corner and maybe go for a move before we get into turn 1, because then we might be able to pick up the slipstream to the lead driver who's just pitted. So getting that slipstream, we're going to go for an aggressive send into the braking zone. You've got to be aggressive on this truck to get the moves done. Down the inside, make the corner, and up into P2. And you can see we're going to get straight into the slipstream of P1. So into his slipstream, he's slow on the exit, so you can go for the move. When you come out the pits, you're obviously going a lot slower than the people who have already pitted. So again, getting that slipstream off the Cayman. We know that that Cayman's going to be struggling a little bit on tyres, although he's just been in the pits, so they will have cooled down a little bit. And now you can see that the NSX is going to give us a bump, and we're going to get ourselves into the lead of the race. So from P15 to P1, it wasn't the best drive, in all honesty. We've drove this race a lot better, but it shows you that picking the right strategy and sometimes getting a bit lucky as well with overtakes here and there and people getting penalties nicely up to P1. So we got 1 penalty in that race. A lot of other people picked up a lot of penalties throughout that race, so it does really show you the importance of avoiding the track limits, keep the car in that track, and yeah, keep it smooth. And yeah, the Citroen really, really good on tyres. You can see even at this stage at the end of the race, going through this right hand corner, even pushing it there, you can see 92. It's not going above 92 there. keeping it really nicely in check compared to the other cars. And yeah, that is why this car is very, very good in the last third of the race. So yeah, hopefully this video has helped you out. If it has, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you for more guides and videos in the future. Thanks again for watching, everyone.